Hey everyone, Ramon here from the Diamond Sword, where today I'm going to be doing episode 2 of the podcast series I started way back in 8th grade, What is on Your Mind, where I talk about what is on everybody's mind. Today I'm going to be talking about a bit of older news. Cars 3 came out in 2017, and I'm going to be talking about how Lightning McQueen could have easily beaten Jackson Storm in a very simple way. As an avid lover of all things automotive and as an active NASCAR fan, this movie was amazing to watch. However, I've always wondered, could McQueen have really beaten Storm without bringing in Cruz? Let's find out. In case you don't remember, in Cars 3 we see Lightning McQueen at the top of his game, as the 7-time Piston Cup champion cruises through the field, when suddenly the rookie Jackson Storm flies past him, effortlessly taking the victory and ruining McQueen's race, causing McQueen to crash in the next one. After this, McQueen considers what happened to Doc Hudson, with him being forced to retire, because the same thing might happen to McQueen. After a pep talk from Sally, he decides that he wants to keep on racing, so a sponsor sent him to the brand new Rusty's Racing Center. However, after failing to use a simulator, Sterling, the new owner of Rusty's, tells him that his racing days are over, just like Doc Hudson's, and wants to retire McQueen. After hearing this, McQueen makes a deal with Sterling. If he wins the season opener, he can keep racing for as long as he wants, but if he fails, he has to retire. Lightning then teams up with Cruz Ramirez, a young trainer we meet earlier in the film, to help him recover from the accident. He becomes frustrated with her after realizing she has no real racing experience and almost dying at a demolition derby. McQueen and Mater then realize that if McQueen wants to become fast again, he's got to learn from Hud's old mentor, Smokey. Cruz and Lightning then head over to Thomasville to meet up with Doc Hudson's old mentor, Smokey. After doing a few laps, they run into him, as well as some other legendary racers of their time, who try to train McQueen and almost succeed. However, when they try and race Lightning and Cruz, he just can't seem to pass her. So he leaves for Florida, feeling defeated, showing up to the race. At the start, he makes great pace, not quite back in his prime, but still good for starting from the back of the pack. After a caution happens though, he pits and tells Cruz this is her only chance to race. He starts off rocky, however learns quick with Lightning McQueen as the crew chief, similar to how Doc was his crew chief. After winning the race by doing the same flip roll that Doc Hudson did, she beats Storm. And of course, roll credits. Now of course there's more to the story, however that's the basic gist of it. So with that little recap there, let's talk about what happened to McQueen. Well, over time, mileage on engines can make them lose horsepower and make them slower. Not to mention NASCAR chassis can over time kind of rot away as they're built for kind of just a one and go, especially after the accident. He also suffers damage to his pride, losing the confidence he once had as a rookie. Now, if we're going to figure out how Lightning McQueen could have beaten Jackson Storm, we need to know what he is. We need to have a benchmark for what he is. Now, this is something that's been long debated, and I've come up with an answer that I believe is very suitable. According to Pixar, he is influenced from many different cars, ranging from a 2006 Corvette to a 2006 Dodge Viper, 05 Ford GT, and of course just a generic stock car. Pixar originally had a deal with Porsche to make one of the main characters a Porsche. However, they realized they couldn't make the main character a Porsche because that really wouldn't fit with the NASCAR setting. So they created Sally Carrera instead, who's based off of a 911 Carrera. Now after figuring out what Lightning McQueen is, we also need to know what Jackson Storm is. When it comes to finding out what Jackson Storm is, it's a bit harder. The film came out in 2017, so we should look at cars from 2017, right? Well, not exactly. In 2017, there was no generation change in the NASCAR Cup Series. McQueen was able to be competitive with the Gen 6 Cup cars, so we know that we have to do some stretching. We also know that he's already better than those cars, or at least equal. In 2021, the next Gen Cup car was announced. And what do you know it? This is the exact name the young racers in Cars 3 are.
The next gens, as they're more commonly known, have changed the game as we know it.
Not to mention, Pixar did work with NASCAR to make these films. The next Gen Cup car is also set to have a hybrid in the future, which almost sounds like what Storm has in this audio clip I probably will try and play here.
The top 10.
Seeing as how that's kind of what Storm sounds like, let's assume that Jackson Storm is a 2022 next-gen Chevrolet Camaro. So, let's go over their stats. So let's start with the obviously greatest of all time, Lightning McQueen. Lightning McQueen is a 2006 NASCAR Cup car. I'm not going to go into specifics of what make or model. We're just going to say custom Pixar stock car. He has a Ford naturally aspirated 5.8 liter V8. That's not just because I love Fords. A lot of NASCARs at the time were powered by Fords. He has over 900 horsepower and a top speed of roughly 222 miles per hour. He has a 4-speed manual transmission and a limited slip differential, as well as 5 lug steel alloy wheels. For Jackson Storm, he is a 2022 NASCAR Next Gen Chevrolet Camaro ZL11LE with a Chevrolet naturally aspirated fuel injected, a big difference there, 5.86 liter V8 with about 670 horsepower at the super speedway tracks. For his top speed, more testing needs to be done on these NASCAR next-gen cars for us to know the true top speed. However, we'll estimate around 205 miles per hour since they have less downforce than the previous generation, meaning they can get a bit of higher top speeds. For his transmission, he has a 5-speed sequential transaxle, meaning that the differential and transmission are all one unit. And he has single-lug aluminum alloy wheels. These wheels are obviously lighter. So with that, that's the basic stats list. Okay, wait. What? How did McQueen lose if he's so much faster? I mean, come on, 900 horsepower and a top speed of 222 miles per hour? There's no way he should have lost. Well, going back to what I was saying, Lightning McQueen suffers from his chassis and engine being old. In real life, NASCAR teams have 2 cars per race in the season. This is because the cars are meant to be running as hard as possible for a short amount of time. Then the cars are scrapped or sold or sometimes preserved. A good example, however, of an old chassis still being good and reliable is Dale Earnhardt's favorite car, Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s favorite car, Amelia. Amelia was a chassis that Dale Earnhardt Jr. ran for most of the 2015 to 2016 season. It drove him to victory lane for so long that to this day it's preserved in the NASCAR graveyard. Dale Jr. loved it. However, a slight rule change made the car obsolete, and after 2 wrecks in the same race, he decided that it was time to retire the car, so he did. Doesn't that sound familiar? Oh yeah, right, it's exactly what happened to Lightning McQueen. So, how do we bring Lightning McQueen back to his former glory? Well, while some may say, just give him an engine swap or just mod him, bro. See, it's not that simple. In the Cars world, the Piston Cup Racing Series is similar to that of the NASCAR Cup Series, and therefore has some sort of rule set, and that usually only allows for very little modifications. In terms of modding, we do see some tuner cars in the Pixar series that are 100% modded. After all, look at this guy. His wing is so big they named him after it. And in the second Cars film, we also get this line.
I can replace an engine block.
He says that like it's nothing, meaning that replacing parts like these and even getting an engine rebuild is not only possible, it's something super easy. It would be like actually doing it in real life, except that's not too easy, but you get what I'm saying. Another example is Sir Milo Axelrod. In the second Cars film, when he faked being an electric car, he was lying, but no one seemed to question it, meaning that it's definitely not something that's too far-fetched in the Cars universe. Which does still make me wonder about how Doc Hudson died. I understand that the voice actor is actually dead, but I digress. So with that, Lightning McQueen doesn't need a new simulator or doesn't need to do yoga with Cruz, which is a really weird scene, by the way. All he needed was an engine rebuild. But wait, what about his crash? Wouldn't he get a new / rebuilt engine, because of that? Well, I mean, not always. Stock cars of that era do tend to have really strong frames and could take a hefty beating. So what gives? Well, it could also be a mental speed bump. After his big wreck and his sponsor no longer having faith in the 7-time Piston Cup champion, it could make McQueen down on mental horsepower. A recent example of this is the young quarterback for the Kansas City Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes. In the 2021 to 2022 season, the young NFL player was at the top of his game. With 2 rings already on his finger, he was hailed and still is hailed as an instant legend. However, when Mahomes suffered a leg injury, it seemed like he was down for the count. He wasn't throwing right and wasn't playing like himself. However, he pushed forward and just won the latest Super Bowl, getting back to his old self, just like Lightning McQueen. Something we also haven't looked into is aerodynamics. In layman's terms, aerodynamics is how an object moves through the air. If an object is less aerodynamic, that has a hard time cutting through the air. The old 2006 stock cars had a hard time staying on the ground and had a lot of downforce because it was the only way to keep the cars from flying off into this sunset. Nowadays, aerodynamics have advanced, and the new Cup cars don't need as much downforce. And this is shown with the next-gen Cup car getting a spoiler reduction soon. The lesser amount of downforce allows for greater speeds around an oval track. Still, even with this, Lightning McQueen could have beaten Storm with a simple engine rebuild and a pep talk from Smokey. But hey, that's just a theory. A film theory. And cut. Now, of course, if Pixar made this a reality, it would seem too easy. Critics would complain that it didn't have good storytelling or a real struggle. Also, what about those Gen 6 Cup cars? Those couldn't keep up with the next-gen Cup cars? Well, in my eyes, they couldn't. Their on-track top speed was really only around 195 miles per hour. So even with an engine rebuild for those cars, they were pretty much done, but it looks like Bobby Swift was kind of out of the picture from the get-go.
But hey, that's just a theory. A film theory. And cut.